Hey guys, Kanji here. Hope you're all doing great and staying safe this week. Once again, today I'm dipping into the designs and drafts of Toriyama as we look into what could have been for the designs of Kaio-sama and Bubbles. So all of these drafts, concepts and designs can be found in the Dragon Ball Super History book, which currently to my knowledge is actually still in print and you can get yourself a copy if you're interested. Otherwise, some of these things have actually appeared in the Daizenshu, etc., but that's a nice, pretty big one that's just compacted a lot of the designs and stuff, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff like I am, I recommend that book. For this video, I've focused on a small portion of images because some are harder to work out or are less detailed, so seemingly they didn't get anywhere near as far in the design process. Toriyama clearly just didn't really like them as much. Kaio-sama or King Kai, depending on your preference, is an interesting one for this series of designs we almost had, because his initial design clearly had a lot of back and forth on what Toriyama had actually envisioned for the character, in almost its entirety. So let's start with King Kai. There's not really any text to go off of here, only images. And what's funny is that Toriyama seems, and I want to stress that, seems, because I can't say for sure based on these images, because of course I'm just speculating whilst I look at all this stuff, but that's what makes all of these videos so fun. But it does seem that perhaps Bubbles came as a result of Toriyama having multiple ideas for what King Kai could or should look like. Which makes sense because if you remember at the beginning of Z, when Goku actually meets King Kai, he actually initially mistakes Bubbles for King Kai, and he does that in both the manga and the anime. So this could have been a little inside joke from Toriyama as he did it. This could also be an interesting design note, but it also might not be the case. I don't want to spread misinformation, so please take it with a pinch of salt. It just seems so interesting to me that that ended up as a joke when this was something I seem to have pulled from some of the drawings. I'd love it if that ended up being true. It also seems so interesting that if you look at these, he really toyed around with the idea of various different animals being the design for King Kai. We've got a monkey, we've got a frog, a panda, a sick panda, I'm not going to lie. So there's a fair bit of indication here alone that suggests that perhaps we could have ended up getting a Korin 2.0 at this point, where King Kai would have been another little wise cat that would have just given Goku some basic training, or a frog, or a sassy kick-ass panda that wears boxers. Toriyama also seemed to toy with the idea of giving Kaio-sama the long Tao Pai Pai haircut, but alas decided not to, which I'm kind of grateful for, to be honest, because it's iconically Tao Pai Pai's hair. This may have originally been inspired by the fact he seemed to envision him as a sumo wrestler at one stage, which is where King Kai seems to have picked up all that broad physique and fatness of his character. But another thing to pull out here is obviously this is strikingly familiar to the design we got for Lord Zuno, whom we wouldn't see for about another 30 years or so, which is crazy when you put it down in text, but you can see where the seeds were planted for future ideas. After that, it seems like Toriyama then decided to tamper and make him an animal or a tanuki, or with the nose and the whiskers here and the art next to it, but inevitably decided to just sort of use a chubby cockroach in the end. Which I can't complain about because, honestly, King Kai's design is one of my favourite designs in the entire series. It's one of the most unique characters that he's ever made because most of his characters, they have those typical Frieza ears and all this kind of stuff where it's just kind of little holes in the indents in the side of his head or whatever. These days, Toriyama's new characters, they all seem to just look like the same for the most part. You know, Hit could easily look like Cell or Cooler, or you get the idea. So next, let's look at this little area which seems to be little drawings of Bubbles. The next section of drawings we have are seemingly taking place at perhaps the moment Toriyama decided he wanted Kaio-sama to have a pet or some sort of resident on his island, who may or may not have always been an animal, because there's a sneaky little face down here next to Bubbles that resembles a human version of Manwolf from Dragon Ball. I'm not suggesting he wanted to have him living in his planet, although maybe that's where the idea for Bojack came from. But ultimately, 95% of these are designs of small animals, although I have to admit, the panda, I'm going back to the panda, the sassy panda that previously appeared on King Kai's design sheet, looks hilarious, and I'm really sad we didn't get it, because Bubbles is ultimately very replaceable, and this sassy panda could have been absolutely hilarious. It just looks like he's got a snarky remark to give about everything. And he's wearing shorts. A panda in boxers. I rest my case. Now, I want to get onto this next section here about King Kai's planet, because I've been looking forward to doing this for quite a while, and I don't mean to alarm anyone, but before I do anything else, let's just take a look at this huge, familiar, glaring drawing that appears in the middle of the portion of this page. What is that? What is that? It's the freaking Tournament of Power Arena. There's also a kettle, but it's the Tournament of Power Arena. And when I first saw this a couple years ago, I remember immediately I thought, I should make a video about this. And then my stupid mushy brain forgot, so when I returned years later, I got the same shock again when I looked at these pictures. So clearly we've seen in previous videos that Toriyama has reused designs here and there from his drafts and design sheets, but doesn't it just feel weird seeing these designs from like the late 1980s that wouldn't actually be used for like another 30 years? I like to imagine that had this been the design he went for, we'd have got Kaio-sama's pathetically small planet as the arena for the Tournament of Power. Or the kettle! The thing that amuses me is that he even seemed to design the underside of the spinning top with almost the identical pattern that he used on the Tournament of Power arena. So given the fact that Toriyama doesn't really like to go back and read things he's already written, he's either revisited a bunch of his old sketches prior to hitting the drawing board for Dragon Ball Super, or, and I think this is more likely, he simply has themes and ideas in his head that will reoccur until he uses them. Or sometimes after he's used them as well, which is why we get so many familiar looking characters. Some of the designs near to Bubbles, however, suggest that originally there may have been like an intention of having two areas for Kaio-sama's planet. Either with a portion that looks like the Heavenly Realm, or Kami's Lookout depending on your preference of pronunciation, and another giant rock. However, given Toriyama's sense of humour, I haven't been able to decide if this image at the bottom with the rock and the lookout connected is actually a rock with a huge satellite dish on it so we can be able to keep an eye on the Earth and other planets and maybe watch their TV, or if it's just a joke because, I don't know, maybe you'd have had Kaio-sama living on the rock whilst Bubbles or the Sassy Panda or the Gurei cockroach would have lived on the Heavenly Realm looking bit. Either is honestly likely, but regardless I can see why it had been changed. Anyway, I drew up my versions for Toriyama's sketches based on the fact he had the two most significant designs on the sheet were the sumo wrestler King Kai and the panda! I drew the panda because I like the panda! But I have to say, given the King Kai design we have, I much prefer the route he took, and I'm glad that Kaio-sama looks the way he does. However, I also stand by my statement earlier. The sassy panda with pants should have made it to the manga and the anime. But what do you guys think? Do you like the designs on this sheet, or do you prefer the designs we got? And do you like the panda? Maybe not as much as I do. Let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, thanks for watching the video guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like, comment and subscribe to WKKanji for more content, and I shall catch you in the next video. Bye!